So, James Baldwin wouldn't do well in this political climate and would not do well in this current era of media at all. I say this because Jay Jordan was doing a conversation, a podcast to promote his Hulu special. You guys should go watch it. But in that Hulu special and in that podcast interview specifically, he is talking about the queer man. And for my own brain, I went immediately to Black queer man because I like that. But in it, he's talking about the queer man and our role as the ephemeral creator, right? We are the arbitrators of taste and culture. It's because for most of us, our identity exists on such a politicized and highly fraught axis that we both understand the performance of masculinity and of culture, because patriarchy, in our world at least, is inherently tied to the culture, and femininity as well, but in a very different context. But also, because of that proximity to femininity, we also understand what it means to be subversive and what it means to actually push a conversation forward. And he talks about this because he's looking at it through the lens that we have kind of stepped away from this role in recent times. Maybe it was because the mainstream appeal has appealed too much to some of us that we are now dissecting and divesting from taste and from culture, and instead just trying to cash grab as much as possible. And in the comments of that video, people are talking about James Baldwin. They said that we need more James Baldwins. Where's our James Baldwin at? And I gotta say that I don't think the media hemisphere right now will be a place that James Baldwin could do well in. I recently wrote an essay and an article where I was asking people questions about the state of Black queer media. The idea behind this article started when I had seen yet another layoff. It was Teen Vogue being merged back into Vogue proper, and the mass layoffs that happened as a result of it. And the feeling that I kind of had that, like, I'm sitting here talking to a publicist about my book, and I'm like, every time I form a list of people who can potentially contact that I have friends at different publications, it kind of goes left because, well, that person doesn't work there anymore. Now they're hunting for a job, and I was asking for a favor to make a freelance pitch to other publications that we could just be making ourselves, and it's a bit awkward. Versus, I'm thinking about all these other Black queer publications that don't even cover literature, that won't even cover anything deeper than a shirtless butch queen. And I've had this conversation with so many other people. Actually, it was a mainstay conversation at the Black Queer Creative Summit. These highlighting of different queer Black publications and how little we see the involvement of artists who are like us and conversations that matter to us being centered there. And people are like, yeah, you know, I took my shirt off and I'm immediately censored there, but not when I was sitting at city council discussing and advocating for people who look like this or people we could end up being one day. And how weird they kind of felt that this apolitical or decentering from culture that is going on in Black queer media. And I could be talking about all media in general, but I felt it was important to talk about Black queer media in particular because of the thing that Jay said. Black queer men and Black queerness in general are meant to be arbitrators of taste and culture. We're supposed to be doing this role. And yet I'm not seeing us having access to these conversations. I'm not seeing people being reinforced by the platforms and the publicity that is out there that could center us and could center our conversations in the very real work that we're doing on a daily basis. And instead is prioritizing what gets the clicks. And then I also challenge that own notion within itself, of the commentary behind it, because I'm like, well, social media typically is reinforced by what people are actually engaging with. Is it more so the audience's fault? You know, because you can say one thing or another about certain publications and their desire to focus and fixate on desirability, on the butch queen of it all, right? But then there's also the reality that these accounts are still one of the highest followed platforms on these apps, that people are still engaging mostly with the shirtless men, with the fine men, with the men who will litter their stories and their likes. And there's not a lot of focus naturally being seen or spotlighted on these places. And then I still challenge that notion, because how can you support what you don't know about? How can you be what you don't see an example of? James Baldwin was a author people only discovered in recent times because we resurrect his work again and again. We have the conversation about James Baldwin, but I wonder what would James Baldwin be if someone at his time did not talk about him. So I'm moving for discussion. Like, is it more the audience's fault, or is it more on the platforms and publications for not giving their audience the opportunity to support more?